Okay, so I'm doing a progress video on this paint job that I'm doing. Now, I'm saying progress because I'm not doing instructional video. This is not what I do for a living. Okay, what I did for a living. This is just kind of a hobby and I've learned what I've learned pretty much on my own, talking to some old schoolers. This is actually a shade tree paint job, if you want to call it that. But one thing I'd like to point out, guys, is whenever you're doing this stuff, don't buy aftermarket parts. This fender will never line up because it's an aftermarket fender. It's high here, it's high down here, it's even here, it's high up here, it's even down here, and then it's high down here. This thing just will never line up. I don't care what you do to it. So, I mean, if I wanted to really, build this thing up with 40 pounds of Bondo or whatever, I could probably do that, but I don't believe in doing that. I believe in hammering out the dents as much as you can and using very little Bondo. That's the way I believe it should be done. But anyway, I'm limited on what I can do here. This tree is fixing to start crapping pollen all over me. So I've only got a couple of days more that I can actually even do anything. Because when this thing starts dropping its pollen, man, there's going to be pollen all over everything, and that's just no way you can do any kind of paint or primer or nothing. You just can't do anything in that kind of condition. So I'm going to get as much as I can done today. I finished taking this, well, I'm not finished, but I took this hood. I couldn't think of the name of the damn thing. I took this hood down to the metal, and I'll show you why I did it. If you can see here, see if I can focus in on this. You can see, come on, focus. You can see these little, where's my finger at? Here it is. Oh, it's huge. You can see these tiny little cracks right here in the paint, right? These little, looks like little chips or whatever. That was all over the hood, man. This hood was just covered with those tiny little cracks. And what I suspect happened here, because the rest of the paint job was in decent condition, other than where he wrecked it and had to replace the fender and all. But what I suspect happened is that this thing was damaged at the dealership, okay? I've seen it happen a lot of times. I've worked at dealerships. And what they'll do is if they damage the hood or whatever, they'll either just find another hood or do a little body repair. It looks like they couldn't repair this one, so they just got another hood and then threw some cheap paint on it to sell it, okay? It looks like that's what happened here. There's nothing else that I can contribute to the fact that this paint job just started having little cracks all over only the hood. So I suspect that's what happened here. It was a base coat clear coat, but it was probably the cheapest crap that they could possibly find, probably an R&M paint or something like that. In my opinion, it's a cheap paint. A lot of people might like it, but I don't like R&M. I like PPG. Anyway, that's where I'm at, though. I've got to at least get another good coat of primer on this thing. I've got to finish block sanding this thing. Guys, don't ever use your fingertips for sanding, because you'll end up with little trenches in your paint when you're done. I always use a block sander. Or jitterbug or dual action sander, something like that. You never want to use your fingertips for doing sanding work because you're going to screw up your final paint job. Another tip that I like to use is when you're wet sanding this thing, whenever you're pouring water on your body work or whatever, you'll be able to see exactly if there's any high places or low places in your work, and you'll be able to fix it, because whenever you're pouring the water on this thing, it actually puts a layer of, like glass. It's water, but it's like glass. It really, it really wets the area up that you're working on, and you'll be able to see if you need to do any further work there. So that's what we're looking at right now. I'm going to finish getting all this paint off here. I'll take my DA. I'm going to sand this whole hood down, get all the rest of the little blue chips of paint off this thing, and then I'll etch the paint. I will etch the metal with OSPO, let it sit for 24 hours, and then come back, and hopefully tomorrow I can get somebody to help me move this hood, and I'll put some epoxy primer on this thing. I've got some DP90. I like to use the DP90 because it's easy to put the color on whenever I use DP90 also as a sealer, and so it'll be easy for me to put the color on this thing. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to put dark color on a light finish, so when I seal this thing, it'll be white, and that'll give me a really good good way to see if the paint's going on like it should. And the undercoat on this thing was white also. So basically it'll be the same color. It'll keep the color the same as what was on the truck originally, hopefully, because I'm going to use the VIN number off the vehicle to get the paint. Hopefully I can use PPG paint. I like it better than Sherwin-Williams, but it just depends on whatever the gentleman wants to buy. If he wants to spend the money to put PPG, I'll certainly put it on there for him. So, you know, I painted my wife's car right out here, actually beside the house, between my house and my outbuilding. And I had very, very little debris. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to try here and see if I can do it. If not, then I may recommend him to go to, I'm gonna maybe paint the hood, or not the hood, but maybe the fender, or maybe I will paint the hood out there and see how it turns out. And then if it turns out okay, I may go ahead and do the whole truck there. But what I'll do is I'll put a drop cloth. I'll buy a 20 by 40 drop cloth and put it out there and anchor it down, and then roll the truck up on that drop cloth. And I did that with my wife's car, man. It turned out really good. I mean, it didn't have any debris in it at all. Of course, I've got to wait for this tree to quit producing pollen, which is probably going to be 3 weeks. This thing is horrible. Oh my God, this thing is horrible when it starts dropping pollen. There'll just be a yellow sheen on everything, man. This old oak tree. And this thing is huge. It's probably got a 250, 300 foot crown. So this thing is just massive, man. This thing will kill you if you're allergic to oak pollen. You don't want to be at my house, trust me. This thing will kill you. So anyway, so that's what I'm looking at here. I'm going to etch this metal tonight with OSPO after I finish using my orbital sander on it, and just go from there. That's the thing about painting, guys. It's just you have to have patience. You know, I keep telling myself to hurry up. This tree's going to start puking on me. But you know what? I can't hurry up. I just can't. There's a specific way a paint job has to be done. And I know a lot of guys are going to say, well, you got to have a paint booth. You got to do because of this and that. But you know what? What I've found out is that if you've got a good windbreak and you're not doing like the whole vehicle, like what I'll do is I'll do one section at a time. I'll paint the hood and then I'll stop. And I'll let it cure for the day. And then the next day I'll come out there and I'll paint the freaking door and I'll stop. You know, I don't paint the whole thing, so I just paint a section at a time. And if you do that and you've got a good windbreak, you've got a good drop cloth, and if you spray for bugs, which is a great idea, prep the yard and make sure there's no bugs, because when I start spraying that paint out there, those bugs will be going, oh my God, what the hell is that? They're going to be flying all over the place and landing in my paint job, and that's not cool either. So that's what we're looking at here, guys. I think this thing is going to turn out just fine. I really do. This is not my first rodeo. I've painted some really nice vehicles, and they've all come out really nice. Every one of them. Matter of fact, the last paint job I did, I painted at Star Toyota up there, and it turned out like crap. It was terrible, man. The guy didn't know what the hell he was doing. It was like, I wanted to paint in a booth, and he was the painter. He's like, well, I'll paint it, but I ain't gonna let you paint it, and blah blah blah. So I let him paint it, and it was a terrible paint job. It was horrible. So I'd rather just do it right here. I trust myself. I don't trust a lot of people with, this kind of work. So that's where we're at, guys. And see, I just cleaned this up last night. I just sprayed for all the leaves and everything. So this oak tree is just terrible to work under if you're trying to do any kind of body work or paint or anything. So that's where we're at, guys. I guess I'll let y'all get back to it. I've got a lot of stuff to do. I got to quit jabbering. So y'all take it easy, peace, and I'm out of here.